Not too many trades this past week, but we did have a beautiful trade on the Aussie US dollar from the daily market breakdown videos. Let's get into this week's forecast. Starting this week's Forex forecast off with the DXY, you can notice my two higher time frames, my weekly up left and my daily bottom left. There is no trend on any of these charts. And why is that important? Well, trend really determines a lot in my opinion. And as we look at the daily chart here, yes, we did react off of some sort of daily demand down at 104.37. And we have failed to push up to this high, but honestly, momentum is clearly up. It's more visible on a 4-hour chart, which we're going to look at in a second, but the momentum is up. If we create this daily trend to the upside, what I think is going to happen on the weekly chart, obviously, that'll be a positive sign as we break the high. And I think we'll probably break this high as well and potentially pull all the way back up to weekly supply. There's a beautiful weekly supply, a drop-based drop supply zone at 110.66. where if we do break this high, I think that's clearly where we are headed. And not only that, we will have a weekly trend as up, which will be very, very strong as far as the DXY is. And on the 4-hour chart here, this is where the trend is really more clear. If you look here, we have a very obvious and clear upward trend line. We actually did have an upward trend line right here, and we had a little bit of a bumpy ride as we kind of broke below the trend line. And then it seemed to me like it was some sort of fake out. We had a demand zone here as well, a little rally-based rally demand, the upper trend line, and we kind of faked out below, probably stopped some traders out, and we ended up just blasting through the highs and the supply again. And then we had this demand zone here as well, and we are clearly reacting off of it multiple times now. And the trend line, this is the demand zone we point out in the daily market breakdown videos to the members as well, to point out, hey, we could see the dollar turn around here, and we clearly did. So things are looking strong. We have a very, very beautiful looking upper trend line on this 4-hour chart. So as long as this trend line's holding, guys, we pretty much have to be bullish on the DXY. If we end up breaking this demand zone and the trend line, that's going to be a pretty bearish sign as well. But you know, we could just be another move like this where we had demand, like I just pointed out, and we had the trend line. We broke it, but it was clearly a fake out. So if we do break the demand zone and the upper trend line, and we do have a 4-hour supply zone here, this will be the next test to see if the supply will hold or if we will break, if this is all just a fake out. So to kind of summarize again, no trend on the daily or on the weekly, but since we have a trend on the 4-hour chart here, things are looking strong, which could indicate that we could be getting that daily uptrend soon, which could then lead into a weekly trend on the weekly chart of the DXY. So again, things are looking strong. We have demand zones being respected. We have trend lines being respected. The next thing we are looking for essentially is to see if these highs can be removed to continue the trend to the upside. So overall, at least on the 4-hour and lower, the DXY is looking strong. So if you're day trading the dollar, I would personally be looking for longs based off of this. As far as swing trading goes, it's going to be a tough week. We're just going to be mostly pointing out zones in this forecast, so stay tuned for that. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar, but really quick, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new to the channel. All of the ad revenue generated from these weekly Forex forecast videos is donated to my local hospice charity. So every like, every share, and every sub helps as we get more people viewing this video, the more money that is donated to the charity. So we'd much appreciate if you can hit that like button and share this video. So on the daily chart of the euro, there's no trend. Obviously, it's the opposite of the dollar. We did remove demand here, left us with supply. We just couldn't hit it, and we're kind of just floating near the lows, not super near, but there's just not a lot to go off of here on the euro. So we have to pretty much stick to the lower time frames, and even the 1-hour chart down here, I'm not even going to zoom in on it because it's just sideways soup right now. It's really not that great. But on the 4-hour chart, you can clearly see we have this downward trend line right now, and we are actually currently removing it as I speak. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the downward arrow that I have for the members to indicate a downward trend. And you know what I like about this supply here is that it's proven. What do I mean by that? It's proven because we reacted off of it already, which means, hey, there was supply there, right? We did point out this supply beforehand, and we reacted off of it and didn't get a huge move, right? We didn't get the lows. It wouldn't have been a great trade, right? But there is supply there, and we are coming back in for a second test. And not only that, we are kind of breaking above the trend line. So if we do that, unfortunately, I'm not really seeing any demand down here at all. So it's not really a signal to get in long just yet. However, if we do remove this supply, something like this, let's say there's a 4-hour demand zone there, that could be a potential trade at that demand zone. But that could happen, you know, throughout the week. I can't control it right now, but it's just something to look forward to throughout this week. And another thing, as far as short trading goes, I have identified this supply zone all the way above at 1.07. It's a beautiful drop-based drop. You can notice, look how strong this move away is, right? We had a pretty tight basing, massive move away, broke demand, broke the lows. It's a very good supply zone. And not only that, what I like about it here is that it's also some sort of resistance area right here. If I just take my drawing tool, old support down here becomes new resistance, right? Where we had support, okay, it broke, turned into resistance multiple times now. So what I think we could see is some sort of push above it, stop everyone out who is short here, and get a nice move off of that supply zone at 1.07. So if you are bearish, that is where I would be looking for shorts at, up at that 4-hour supply up there. So I like to point out both longs and shorts. So again, for longs, we need to see this demand removed, and we could look for long off a demand zone there, at least up to 1.07. If you're bearish, that's a good little supply zone there to look for shorts, especially since it's a potential trap setup. Now, yes, there is supply here. A lot of you guys might be thinking, why can't I short the zone? Well, look, it's tested. It's barely tested, so it's not super concerning to me. But if you want to get in short here, I would at least wait for the high to be removed here and look for shorts on a day trading time frame, which would be a 15-minute or a 5-minute chart using a confirmation style entry as we come off the supply, because it's tested, right? We're up here. I think this is good for a potential entry, stop, and take profit below because it's fresh, right? It hasn't been tested yet. So couple options here on the euro. Hopefully it all makes sense. Remember, guys, any questions about my analysis, do not hesitate to leave a comment. I respond to everyone. All right, on to the forecast for gold. If you notice here on the 1-hour chart, we had a beautiful 1-hour downward trend line. Things were looking really, really good. I was talking about how, hey, as long as this trend line is holding, 5-minute time frame day trading shorts are fine. But look at the move we had that actually ended up breaking the downward trend line. Beautiful little rally-based rally here. Beautiful move away. I love this overall move. Very, very strong. So a lot of you guys might be thinking, hey, look, we need to be looking for longs down on this 1-hour demand zone at 23.05. And you definitely could. An entry with a stop below is a little bit risky. And here is why. Because we trade multiple time frame analysis with supply and demand. So, okay, yes, there's a 1-hour demand zone. It's looking good. We could see a move off of it. But our higher time frame is the daily. So if we go to the daily chart, what do we see? Usually when we see a 1-hour demand zone, we want to make sure there's some sort of daily demand here, and there is not. There's absolutely no demand here. Price is going sideways. So why I'm saying to take that 1-hour demand zone with a grain of salt is because there's no higher time frame analysis on the daily chart. We are just going sideways. We lost trend, and in fact it looks like momentum is somewhat down. So that 1-hour demand zone is definitely a little bit risky, but what it does have going for it is this overall weekly trend to the upside. Now I think it's very possible we could be pulling back down at 22.24 based on the fact that we are kind of basing out right now. That is basically the first sign of evidence to suggest we could be pulling back down to the weekly demand. So be cautious of that. But the weekly trend is up. So in theory, that 1-hour demand zone down here is in fact a trade with the overall weekly trend. But it is definitely aggressive. Like I said, if there was, let's say this was a daily demand zone overall right here, and then we broke the 1-hour demand zone, we broke the 1-hour downward trend line, leaving us with the demand. Well, at that point, it would be a little bit higher odds because the higher time frame is with us. So, it's risky. It might be a time to risk, a 0.5% instead of a full percent. Or what you could do instead is wait for the zone to be contacted, go down to a 5-minute time frame and look for confirmation down there, and look for a small move or something to the upside on a day trading time frame. That is what I'm seeing as far as long trades go. And if you are bearish, we do have a couple options here. We have a supply zone up at 23.55 right here. The issue with this is it's a very obvious peak. Same with this zone above. They are both very obvious kind of peak zones. It's not super big deal, but it's just something that kind of concerns me. But these, like if you are bearish, which I'm not really that bearish, and I'm not really that bullish either on gold, right? That's why I'm going to point out both sides. This is like, if you really, really, really needed to short gold, that is where I would short gold at 23.55. and actually better yet above at 23.73. And why I like this one more? Well, not just because the move away is bigger, guys. The move away is really good on both of them. It's the fact that this is a very obvious peak with a supply above. Could be some sort of resistance trap set, liquidity setup up there. So I do prefer the zone above, but it doesn't mean both of these zones might not work, something like that. And if you don't know which zone to take, you could look to take both, right? Even if you, let's say price pushes up, you take a loss, now you're down 1%. But then price moves off the supply, something like that, and you get like a 3-to-1. Well, now you're up 2%. And if you look for a 2-to-1 move, now you're up 1%, right? So you definitely could be trading both. These are the zones I would be looking for shorts. And then obviously if we blast through both of these zones, well, at that point, I think it's safe to say the weekly trend line is just going to continue up, and we might not be getting that pullback. But overall on gold, guys, it has been kind of a sideways mess, but we do have a few zones here that we could definitely, see some moves off of. So I would have those on your charts and trade accordingly. Now on to the forecast for the USDJPY. A little bit of a top-down approach here. Look at the beautiful weekly trend we have. We have supply zones being removed. We have demand zones being respected. New demand zones being formed. It's really longs all the way. We're floating around the all-time highs here. Things are looking really, really good. But on the 1-hour chart, look at what took place, right? Things were looking really good, just like on the weekly chart. Trends at the upside, supply zones being removed, demand zones being formed. But then all of a sudden, boom, we broke a demand zone, we broke an upper trend line, we had a supply zone that was formed. And we are clearly reacting off the supply. Not hugely, we haven't pushed down like that, but the supply zone is clearly being a little bit respected right now. So why I'm showing you this is because this could be the start of a potential pullback to the downside. So as far as the 1-hour chart goes, that is what I am seeing. And why I'm pointing that out is because if we do get a pullback, well, at that point, we could be pulling back right into this somewhat decent rally-based rally demand zone on the daily chart at 159.92. I know a lot of you guys aren't just looking to buy a whole daily demand zone with an entry and a stop, below. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially if you are day trading. So what you could be doing in here is looking for a 1-hour confirmation trade, and that is what we will be looking for this week if we do get that. Now, if you guys do want access to my daily forecast throughout the week so we could get a confirmation trade off of this daily demand zone on the USDJPY, check out the Diamond membership. We have video lessons where you can learn everything. We have the daily forecast, private Discord group, Sunday Zoom sessions that are basically one-on-one mentorships, and much more. And we're actually running a 20% off discount right now on the lifetime memberships on WAP. And why am I doing that? Well, because I just reached 20,000 subscribers. So I want to make sure I thank all of you, each and every one of you. I really appreciate all the support. I can't believe I'm in a position like this to help other traders, and it's the popularity is growing, and I think it's all due to the forecast and the accuracy of the analysis, guys. So again, I really appreciate all of you guys for 20,000 subscribers. Check out the discount. It's running till next week. Use the promo code 20K at checkout if you want access to that. And again, we'll be looking for confirmation in here in the daily market breakdown videos. They're basically like these forecasts you're watching now, but throughout the week. So yeah, that is pretty much the end right now. Not much else to report, right? Maybe we don't pull back down to that daily zone, right? We're looking for that pullback, but going back to the 1-hour chart here, it's possible we don't even get it, right? Yes, we did create a supply zone, but remember, the trend is overall up, so the strength and force is to the upside. So if we do break this up here, let's say we break the high, we break the supply, then at that point, I don't think we're going to be pulling back down in the daily demand zone. And that's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world, right? If we do break the supply here, leaving us with new 1-hour demand zones, we could be looking for longs off of that as well, just like we were doing down here as well. So again, things are looking really strong, but we could be starting to turn inside out and be getting that pullback. So it's all going to revolve around this 1-hour supply to see if it holds or not, and potentially get that pullback here on the USDJPY. So again, check out the discount for the lifetime membership. We'd be happy to see a bunch of people join and continue to learn. And thanks again, guys, for 20,000 subscribers. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD, and as always, guys, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the pound. Where do you think the pound is headed, up or down? Get specific. Tell me specific prices. What I am seeing is this daily rally-based rally demand zone located at 1.259, and we're awfully close to the zone. Have we contacted it? No, right? We're close to it. We still have room to the downside to push, and I personally think we will at least see a small reaction off of this daily zone. But in the meantime, right, we still have a 4-hour downtrend. Things are looking really, really weak on this time frame. So as long as this downward trend line is holding on the 4-hour chart, you could be looking for 15-minute and even 5-minute time frame shorts. I'd mostly stick to the 15-minute time frame. But look, guys, if there's a setup that comes into play as we contact the daily zone, let's say the daily zone is at this line and price comes in, we hit the daily zone, and there's a 15-minute supply zone up here. Yeah, it could work, but it is much lower odds. It's definitely not something I would be super interested in. So we want to make sure that there's at least profit margin. So let's say there's a 50-minute supply zone here, and there's tons of profit margin to the downside to daily demand. Perfect. That's a valuable setup that we could be looking for. Just like on this supply zone here, let's say the daily demand was down here. What you want to do is just use the risk to reward, right? And if there's like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 move to that daily demand, perfect. That's a valuable setup that we could be trading. So look, we have supply zones being respected, downward trend lines in play. If we push up from here and we do not hit the daily demand zone, I still don't mind this supply zone setup all the way up at 1.27. It could kind of stop everyone out that's kind of trading the support resistance areas up here. I still think we could get a move off of that supply. As far as this supply goes, it's tested already, so you could kind of treat it like the euro. You can maybe look for extra day trading confirmation in there, but it's tested, not really an area I would be super interested in. And again, let's say the daily demand zone is down here. We respect the trend line. I'll be personally looking for longs here, and what I'm going to look for essentially is the break of this downward trend line. So, you know, I am bullish at that daily zone. That's where I want to be looking for longs off of. And me personally, as a swing trader, I'm going to be waiting for that daily zone to be hit so I can switch to longs. I'm not a day trader, so I'm not personally shorting this downward trend line on the 4-hour chart, but you definitely can. On the 1-hour chart, we're kind of going sideways, but again, guys, we have profit margin to the downside to at least 1.259, so there's profit margin to still continue to look for shorts on the 50-minute time frame here on the GBPUSD. On to the forecast for the USDCAD. I want to do a top-down approach here, and not because I like it, but just because of the nature of it. Look at this sideways, what I like to call sideways soup. I've kind of coined the term, I guess. Sideways soup, it's a mess. Yes, momentum is up. That is for sure. So we cannot deny that the momentum is up, but even on the daily chart, right? What are we looking at here? Where is this really headed, right? It's very difficult to tell. And even on some of the lower time frames, like the 4-hour chart, it's just a sideways soup as well, right? We've had supply demand zones being removed. We have supply zones up here, but really no pullback to them. So look, if you're bearish, we do have supply above. I just noticed it now. We could definitely see a move off of that at 1.373, but take it with a grain of salt, right? There's no trend, so the odds of the zone working out, not that great. If we had a weekly downtrend or a daily downtrend or a weekly supply zone was in control, and then we created this 4-hour supply, I'd say, wow, what a setup we could look for off of that. So we do have that 4-hour supply zone to be looking to trade off of. And I don't know if you guys have been following my forecast for a while, but we've had this support area down here for a bit. And I'm not a support and resistance trader, guys. I am a supply and demand trader. And I've noticed this beautiful, I guess you could call it a drop-based rally demand zone. Absolutely picture perfect, you know, move away with a support level kind of just directly above it. So I like that for a potential trap setup down here. Boom, I still think we could see a move off that at 1.357. So for longs, this is the area I have on my charts. I've been waiting patiently. I thought we'd pull back here. I was wrong. I thought we'd pull back here. I was wrong. Not that I'm wrong, right? I didn't lose any money. It's just we're struggling to get there. And I still think it's a viable setup down here just for a trap setup. Do I think we're going to go to the moon from here? Probably not. And why do I not think that? Because there's no trend, like I pointed out. So any one of these zones I've been pointing out, they could just be good for a little 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1 move or yeah, you could look for a massive move off of it, right? Something like that. You could do that, but what I'd be doing, since there's no higher time frame analysis to go off of, I would take my stop loss from here and just be aggressive, bumping it into the profit. Same thing with down here. I'm going to get aggressive with my take profit because there's no higher time frame. If the weekly trend was up and I was looking for longs down here, okay, then I'd give it a little bit more wiggle room. Maybe I wouldn't bump my stop to break even until like 3 to 1 or 4 to 1, and then I just give it more breathing room. But again, there's no higher time frame trend or analysis to go off of, so we have to take these zones with a grain of salt and trade accordingly and take profit more aggressively, in my opinion. But 2 good 4-hour demand and supply zones we could potentially see some sort of move off of, so I'd have those on my charts for sure. On to the forecast for the AUDUSD. So we are reacting off of daily supply, but look at this, right? We've reacted off of it once back here so many times, right? Is the supply still in control? Technically, yes, but it's just not really a worry, right? When the zone was fresh back here, it was kind of a worry for me, right? I wasn't surprised to see a move off of it. If you go back to March, you can see we pointed out this supply zone, and it was a worry, and rightfully so. So am I saying we're going to blast up to the upside? Probably not, but what I'm saying is we can't really go off of this daily chart, so we have to kind of stick to the lower time frames here. On the 4-hour chart, we had this beautiful 4-hour demand zone here we've seen 2 reactions off of, and this was a zone we called out in the daily market breakdown video, as you can see on the screen now. That's a post recorded from the daily market breakdown video. So beautiful setup there, and what we could be looking for now, since this zone has already taken control and moved up, we have 2 options here. I'm really not seeing any reasoning for shorting right now, so I'm not going to be pointing out any shorting opportunities, but this supply is proven, right? Once, twice. There's actually 2 tests in here. I don't know if you guys can see that. So 1, 2, 3, almost 4. So clearly this is proven supply. So if we do push up, we break that supply, that's going to be pretty significant in my opinion. And any 4-hour demand zone, we could be looking for longs off of like that. And if we remove this high here, then we will have the ability to draw a trend line, something like that, which means we'll have a 4-hour uptrend, which means we could add 15-minute time frame longs to our trading plan here on the Aussie US dollar. So really just waiting for that high is going to be significant enough. Then we could add day trading longs, and obviously removing the supply would be super beneficial as well. Any pullback to the long side there would be good in my opinion. And if you want to get aggressive, let's say we don't get any of what I just talked about yet, and you want to get aggressive when we start to pull back, well, this was a demand zone formed down here at 0.66. We had a beautiful 1-hour downward trend line that was removed by this demand zone right here. So if we don't remove the high up here, we don't remove supply, let's just say we get a pullback down here. This is aggressive because there's really not any higher time frame analysis to support it, but this would be our pullback entry right here. And I really like this zone as far as the look of it. Beautiful rally base rally, beautiful move away, right? Very picture perfect almost, where it's a very, very aggressive. So this would be our aggressive entry down at 0.66, guys, at this 1-hour demand zone. As always, if you don't feel comfortable just with an entry and a stop and take profit, you could always just look for the extra confirmation on the lower time frame. So few options here on the Aussie. I'm liking the potential setups that we see, and I don't mind this as far as an aggressive setup. Remember, aggressive isn't wrong. It's just aggressive, right? There's conservative trading and there's aggressive trading. Both can be very profitable. It all depends on your risk tolerance. And usually when it's an aggressive setup, I will admit I will take aggressive setups sometimes where there's not really a higher time frame chart to go with it. And what I like to do is, instead of risking my 1 to 2% that I will normally risk, I'll risk a 0.5% or a 1/4% or 0.75%, just because it's aggressive, right? And that's just the way to mitigate risk. So couple options here in the Aussie. I think they're pretty good. Let me know your thoughts. All right, on to the forecast for the USDCHF. We're starting off with the daily chart here because I have a little bit of an exercise to show you guys. So we had a beautiful drop-based drop here, removed a very proven demand zone. It's a picture perfect supply zone in my opinion. Not the greatest move away, but as far as what it accomplished, it's fantastic. And we are clearly seeing some sort of move off of it already. So a lot of you guys might be thinking, hey, we really got a short here. And I don't really disagree. The only issue is look at the weekly chart, just one time frame higher. We have a beautiful rally base, rally demand zone that we clearly are reacting off of. So we have a daily supply zone that's good, and we have a weekly demand zone that's going against it. It doesn't mean we won't see move to the downside, but remember, the weekly demand essentially trumps the daily supply. So in theory, bulls are going to be a little bit stronger here than bears in my opinion. It doesn't mean we can't look for shorts though. There was a supply zone here at 0.90. We pretty much reacted off of it already. Hopefully some of you guys got filled off that supply zone. You could still look for shorts off of it. I think it's fine, especially since the daily supply is in control. But remember, since the weekly demand is in control down here, in theory, this should be kind of breaking, right? So trade cautiously here. I really see reasons to get in long and for shorts. Since that weekly demand is in control, if we break this supply zone, any 4-hour demand zone there could definitely be a good entry. So keep an eye out for that throughout the week. And we already got a confirmation down here on the 4-hour chart at 0.884. So if we do pull back down to here, this already is our weekly confirmation because it broke a downward trend line. So this would be this is already a setup down here. Unfortunately, we just failed to get a pullback as we've just seen nothing but strength. So a pullback down to this demand zone could be good for longs. A break of this supply could be good for longs as well if we have a demand zone there. So those are really the only two options I'm seeing for longs on the USD Swiss. But again, I like to point out all aspects. And since, yes, the weekly demand zone is in control, things are technically strong, I have a hard time kind of ignoring this supply, especially since it's an overall daily supply as well. So I think this, what we could see is this supply being used to maybe push back down to here where then we could get a move off of. So I really don't mind the supply zone for shorts. In the meantime, it's all going to revolve around this 4-hour supply. If we break it, it's bullish. And in the meantime, I think we could continue to look for shorts off of it. So I know it's a little bit tricky here, guys. And another thing you could be doing is since the daily supply is in control, we could be looking for the 1-hour time frame confirmation, which is going to be looking like this. No zone up here, so unfortunately we have to rely on this demand zone being removed. So if this demand zone gets removed, any 1-hour supply zone there could be our 1-hour confirmation as we come off of our daily area of supply. So I know it's a lot of back and forth between do we short, do we get in long. That's why I'm pointing out both options, right? Technically, in theory, longs are going to be better because of the fact that the weekly demand zone is in control. So if you do get in long down here, I would be holding the trade for longer. And if you do get in short, maybe at the supply zone on the 1-hour chart if we get it, or the supply zone on the 4-hour chart, maybe just look to be more aggressive with your take profit instead of looking for a massive move, because overall, the weekly demand zone is in control. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil. So the last couple weeks, guys, we had a beautiful daily downward trend. You guys know I got in long from this demand zone. Unfortunately, I missed some of this money here, but ended up making a nice move off of the zone. Now the next question, so the original question was, is this trend line going to break? And it did. Now the question is, are we going to pull back down to the demand zones that broke the trend line, right? Who knows? It's difficult to tell. I'm not really seeing enough evidence to suggest we will be pulling back down to there. But what I am saying is if we do start to see oil start to sell off, don't worry about it, right? We have two beautiful rally-based rally demand zones down here. If we lose this trade here, I don't care. We have another beautiful rally-based rally down below we could get in long at as well. So two beautiful daily zones there that I'm personally really interested in, especially as, you know, a swing trader. So that's what I'm looking for here. But again, look at this 4-hour chart. Are you seeing any evidence to suggest we will be pulling back down to that zone? I'm not. All I see are demand zones being formed, supply zones being removed, and trend lines being respected, right? So I'm not seeing a lot of evidence to suggest that. So what I would be doing here on oil, first of all, I like to pull back down to those daily zones for longs. Let me just say that. So you could be waiting for those daily zones to be hit for longs. Could mean you miss out on some setups, and that's fine. As long as this upward trend line is holding, you could be looking for 15-minute time frame longs on the day trading. If you're a day trader, that could be good. But as soon as we break this trend line, I'm noticing this drop base rally demand zone at 80.20. This is really our nearest pullback entry down there. So I also like it because of the support area down here. Could definitely see a nice move off that zone. So this is the nearest zone I have on my charts. And then even if we break that, it's all good. We have another one down below that's inside of that daily zone. We could look for longs at 78, 72. So it's longs all the way. I don't see any reason to get in short at all right now on oil. That's why I'm only pointing out the long setups. So again, the upper trend line is being respected. Longs all the way on the 50-minute time frame. And look, if we break the zone, big deal, right? We could be even looking for 15-minute time frame longs inside of that demand. So I'm really hoping this week we break the upward trend line. Everyone starts to get in short or long at this support, and then everyone stopped out right into my demand zone and boom to the upside. That's what I'm going to be looking for here on crude oil. It's really longs all the way here, guys. And again, we have so many backstops as far as demand goes at 78.70 and at 76.46 on the daily charts. So I welcome a deep pullback. I'm going to be bullish here on oil all the way. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.